All right, with all the flooding that we've had in the St. Louis area, I wanted to get with Sal Baldanza. Right. Okay. So what's your technical title? I mean, we've been hanging out for a couple of years now.
You'd say I'm a franchise owner for Goosehead Insurance. Goosehead's the largest independent brokerage in the country. Which
Okay.
just means I'm an insurance dork. That's about it.
In addition to Star Wars dorks, we're like insurance.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Perfect. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Now, we've never done anything like this, so I want to give everybody the reason that we're doing this about insurance. Like, it was biblical over the past week, right?
So a rainfall record that has stood since 1915 fell last week.
Right. I had to bring it up because I couldn't remember. So it's 8 inches overnight.
Yeah, so our phone rang quite a bit.
Okay.
Am I covered? Am I not covered?
Okay. What's the main? Most people don't get flood insurance, right? And because they don't need to, and its cost is the bottom is normally the driver. So how would somebody know if they're going to be covered or not?
Well, the source of the water is going to be the big driving factor if your homeowner's policy is in a place to pick up the tab, right?
Okay.
So if it's any time that the water can be attributed to anything with runoff, the insurance company can put that in the flood bucket and they can say, we don't want to pay, right? So
runoff, what does runoff mean?
Runoff is just connecting it to some sort of flood event.
Okay,
right?
so it just came in the dirt and went under and came into my basement.
So seepage.
Seepage is not
runoff.
seepage is not.
Too bad, so sad.
Okay, so what would be covered? How would the water come in?
So the guy who does not have a flood policy and is still going to help get some help with the bill from insurance, it's going to be someone who has the water coming up through the sewer return. So the name of the coverage.
So backup,
sewer backup, or failure of sump pump, right? But the source of the water is what's going to determine whether or not the.
But isn't it just semantics, though?
Oh, you better believe. You want to hear? This is a good insurance nerd story. So, do you remember what was the East Coast hurricane? Katrina? Was that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Hurricane Katrina, the water came up, right? And it washed away the entire block of homes, right? My uncle's house was on this block. And come to find out that there was a fire first, okay? Because as part of the hurricane, something happened, electrical, and some of the houses were actually destroyed by fire. And then the water came up and brushed the whole thing out. So the insurance company was like, it's flood, can't help you. Right? But the couple of the homeowners actually won. They sued and said the house was on fire first.
It was on fire first, so somebody had to have a camera. Man, that's okay.
When you say semantics,
semantics, right? Because if it's backed up and it's not draining, and then it comes in because anyway. Okay, all right. So I want to try and be able to make sure we have a conversation. It's going to help people. They may be a little anxious. They may be a little concerned about it. So if the water comes up through the drain in my basement, then I'm covered.
If you have the correct endorsement on your home policy, this is where it gets even messier, right? If your agent doesn't address this, when he's crafting the policy, you could be on the short end, right? Because a homeowner's policy typically does not have any sort of sewage backup on it. It is something that has to be endorsed.
It's a special rider.
Yeah.
Is it a right? Okay, so so if I'm going to go onto my website and look at my coverages, I need to make sure that it reads something to the effect of
backup of sewer, failure of sump pump.
Backup of sewer, failure of sump pump. So if I'm looking at my list of coverages, it's like dwelling and all those other. So there'll be some verbiage beneath it there.
It'll be additional coverages section, right? Or it'll be under the endorsement.
Okay,
section.
so I'm a little sketched out right now because my basement's dry, but I live in an area it absolutely should have been wet. So when I go in there and I'm looking for, because we're like everybody, we don't want to pay for it until we need it.
Yeah.
Right. So we got to make sure that we're looking at this. So if anybody's uncomfortable, we need to make sure that we look at our coverages, and it should be a separate line item as backup of sewer and failure of sump pump is what we're looking for.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. That will set you free. Of course, if the source of the water is in your favor, right? If it's
the source of water comes through backup and comes in through the sewer drain.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I'm just a little concerned about the water that's going on right now, and I want to get insurance, flood insurance for it seeping in, what do I do? Do I go through you?
Yeah. So flood insurance can be purchased a couple of different channels. Obviously, it's always best to use a broker.
Okay.
That's what I am. But
Right.
yeah, so I could either purchase it through the federal program, or I can actually purchase it on the private market, whatever has the best rate at the time. So it's usually on the private side.
So usually what I'm used to on the lending side is that somebody needs flood insurance, they go to the FEMA program through a agent, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that there are separate places to go get flood insurance.
There's only one type of loan that will not support the private flood insurance, and I think it's I'm not.
Don't test me.
Is it?
I don't know. I don't
Is
know
it
because
like-
I don't know.
It's some sort of government loan. I think it's like
It's FHA.
I think that might
Maybe
be it,
so.
but
Yeah.
now we're way out of my expertise.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry, we're out of mine too on that one. So, okay, so if I guess for maybe anybody that's looking at this water and thinking my neighbor, they got a lot of flooding and they're not. I guess what whacked me out was Highway 70 at Mid Rivers was underwater. And I've never seen that. I've never seen it. I've never seen water anywhere around that to think that would be a concern. So if somebody's in that place and thinking maybe I should get flood insurance, what are they talking about? If you're not required to get flood insurance, and but they do want to get it, what's that going to look like?
So I mean, just to give you a ballpark, it could be anywhere from $700 to $5,000 for a year. It just depends on the house, depends on how much you want to insure your contents for. There's lots of different ways to get there, but just lots of factors.
Just call you and run some numbers.
Yeah, it's
right.
not that
It could be manageable on
Yeah.
the $700 a year kind of
Yes,
side.
Of course, I say $700 to $5,000. Every single person that's listening to this is like, I'll take the $700 flood policy.
Well, if you don't need flood insurance,
Give me the one for $700.
Yeah. Now, will something like this cause the lines to be redrawn?
What do you mean by that? The lines?
I guess this is going to be the once in 100 years that this amount of flooding happens.
See, that's what really like.
It's the very definition
every
of it because
homeowner's-
100-year floodplain because this happened once in 100 years.
Every homeowner's policy I write, I do a flood zone determination for. Right? And I say, hey, look, this is the flood zone you're in, and this is the risk of that flood zone. So the vast majority of home policies I write are in flood zone X, which flood zone X, I could look it up, but I think it's like a 99.6 chance that it will not flood during a 30-year mortgage.
Right.
And when
right.
people hear that, they're like, I don't need it. What bothers me, what makes me sad, is that there's going to be some people in flood zone X that,
Well,
from
there's a
this
lot of people
100-year
in flood zone X right now.
from that 100-year rainfall that,
Right.
are looking at a big bill that insurance isn't going to help with.
I mean, I suppose you could take the look to say, okay, well, now that it's rained, I'm good till 2300.
Right? We'll see you in the next
We're good.
107 years.
Yeah.
23, 29.
All right. So, okay, let's put a bow on this so we can conclude. If it comes in through runoff, I better make sure I got a rider for it. Right.
Well, runoff would be you'd want flood insurance.
Let's
Back up a sewer. You'd
Oh,
want
I got it
the
backwards. Okay.
endorsement.
Okay. So if it comes in through my sewer, then I better make sure I've got a rider for it.
Really, the best thing to do is just first get someone out to assess the damage, how much money we're looking at. They will tell you the source of the water, and with that information, you and your agent can decide, do I want to, I'll weigh the cost versus the deductible if coverage can apply.
And if you're staring at water in your street, but it hasn't gotten to your basement yet, and you're kind of a little concerned about it, you better think about getting some flood insurance, right?
You better call Sal.
Yeah, better call Sal. All right, Sal, thanks for the knowledge.